We are here with Nate Tschetter at Yamaha headquarters in Buena Park, California. Hi, Nate.
Hi.
This is Stephen Fortner talking from off camera. Yamaha, largely as Nate's project, has introduced this beautiful synth space, or I should say created this beautiful synth space with most of their historical instruments. And Nate is going to tell us about his favorite ones and the project in general and how they all got here.
The team I work with, we were talking, it's like, well, it'd be great to have this space where all of these instruments we've made over the years were, first of all, available, but we could play them and they were all connected. And people could really see the history of Yamaha synthesizers. And so we started searching our various nooks and crannies for instruments, and we found we had a lot of stuff, but there's there's some rare gems that we have to go out and try and buy, but we've been able to accumulate, I'd say, around 60% of the synthesizers we've ever made. And I can show you some of the cool things we've had in recent editions. And
yeah, let's see some synths.
Okay, let's see some synths. All right, so the CS30, I've really grown to like this instrument and also find it really curious. The unique thing about it to me, the sequencer and the way you route stuff. You don't run the VCO to the VCF, for example. You go to the VCF and you choose what feeds into it. And, you can choose different envelopes that you assign here. You have 3 envelopes on the instrument panel itself, but you also have the inverse of every envelope. So you essentially have 5 different EGs that you can use. And you've got 2 voices, 2 filters, 2 VCAs. But the sequencer is just, to me, it's a lot of fun. Listen to that. I love this thing. Okay, there we go. So the first thing is, it's just like endless fun, nuttiness. And this first step drives the rest of the sequence.
So you see, doing that bass note just by re-triggering the envelope?
Yeah.
So I'm seeing the LED there flashing in sync with it.
Yeah, see, so this EG2, is the one that's being assigned to the sequence. So each step is gating the sequence.
Okay.
So you can see I can interact with it like that. And then I can also assign that EG is triggering this VCF as well. Hear that?
Yep.
You know?
Cool.
But the thing is, you hear the sequence transposes as I play.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really cool thing. So I can kind of accompany myself and set up these little melodic sequences and get a nice droning bass line happening at the same time. And getting modulation between the oscillators, you can make some really wacky sound. Listen to that. Yeah, so the CS80, I always think this is probably our most legendary type synthesizer we ever made, and it's just a really cool instrument. It's the whole thing that makes it. There's no one thing about it that makes it cool. It's the entire thing. It's the controls on the keyboard. It's the keyboard itself, piano-style shaped keys for one thing, Of course, the aftertouch is famous with the instrument. The ribbon is a part. The ring modulator, I love the ring modulator. You can do so many creative things with the ring modulation. The fact that it's 2 complete synth voices that you can play together. You basically have 3 different waveforms. You've got pulse and saw, plus you have a sub that doesn't go through the filter. So if you do any filtering, so if you use the high pass filter a lot, you can add in some warmth underneath that, so you can make some really interesting interesting tones with it. You have all of these ways to interact with the sound. So like, I just love that ring mod for that little. And then you can get these overtones as it gets way up there. Now it becomes, it becomes super clangorous with this. So many really cool sound design offs.
What's under here?
Well, was the mind-blowing part back in the day. You could store 4 of your own sounds. But the cool thing is, if you look at it, it's kind of like Gulliver's, what was Gulliver's Travel, the Lilliputians.
It's a miniature version
it's the Lilliputians.
Of everything you see here.
Right, and I don't, it may not be immediately obvious, but if you follow the colors, so, okay, white, green, green, white, green, green. So this row is this entire front panel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then you can follow back M1, M2, and down here, if you go to the tone selector part, that stands for memory 1 and memory 2. So your top part and the bottom part of the CS. So you can rock 4 of these bad boys at one time, and that's your sound. And Yamaha filters, they were never those big self-oscillating type filters. They were kind of meant to be more shapy and musical, so they won't self-oscillate. But they give a really nice musical sound. And this is, another thing that's cool is the ability to detune each section, kind of this organ type terminology, but stack these in octaves.
Yeah.
It's. So the DX1, we were really fortunate to get a DX1 recently, and this is an amazing instrument. First of all, these are pretty rare. I mean, the CS80 is kind of a rare beast, but I believe there are only 140 DX1s. So you had a dual voice architecture. You did have a separate performance memory. And you can see, you had different modes. You could have a dual keyboard, you could split the keyboard, or you could just play single. And the thing that was really cool about the DX1 was the UI. So you can see as I change sounds, you can actually see a representation. So here's your algorithm stack. And you have this display, like think of this, the separate sort of displays they made for each algorithm to be changed like that. But you could visualize it very quickly, see what the feedback was, which algorithm. Of course, you had the other chart here. But probably more important for anybody who's ever programmed FM, a graphic envelope generator. So, and then, of course, it has polyphonic aftertouch, which is another really cool and expressive thing. And one thing I found, I've forgotten this after all these years, portamento on the front panel, and then you can control it with a pedal. So if you have a sound and you want to have some portamento, you can bring it in with a pedal. I always loved it on chords, Very THXy, So one of the first FM instruments actually wasn't the DX7. It was there were a couple of instruments called the GS, and there was the GS1, and there was also the GS2. And the GS1 was this very ornate mahogany cabinet, 88-key instrument with piano-shaped legs and a very, very ornate, classy instrument. And the GS2 was more built into a road case. In fact, I marvel at the GS2. The legs of the stand are actually the top of the case. So you take these off and it folds over and it makes the whole, the entire case, which they build as a very mobile and portable solution at the time. So to make the GS2 and the GS1 work, you had to have a voice library. And the voice library came on these magnetic strips. And you can see it's kind of like tape or a floppy disk. And what you did is you put this sound into this card slot here, and I don't know, again, this is really satisfying to do this. And you press the button, and it loads in, a little motor takes it in, and it reads that strip, if it can, and it can, and what do we got? Some sort of guitar, or it could be piano. So that sound was stored on this strip. The GS2, I believe, is a 4-op operator FM, single voice FM synthesizer. On the GS1, you would take this strip, you'd load one side, and then you'd flip it around, and you could load the other side. So you could put 2 voices into one slot on the GS1. So it could be a little bit bigger sounding, you know, they would be detuned together. But the sound on this is really, for a single 4-operator voice, pretty remarkable. There's some sound. It almost has an analog. I'm just saying, it has an analog-like quality to me. And some really cool performance controls to go along with it. So it has vibrato on board, which you can bring in with the pedal. So I'm pressing down the left pedal. There's a 3-pedal unit attached to this. And the tremolo you could bring in with the middle pedal. Plus, it had this really cool ensemble feature. And you could load up 16 of your favorite sounds. Oh, this is really cool. Be really expressive with it with the pedal usage. People always ask what's my favorite instrument in the synth space, and for a really long time my favorite Yamaha synth has always been the VL. And the thing I like about the VL is just such an expressive instrument, because of the way it modeled behavior of acoustic instruments. The amazing thing to me with the VL is if I play the same note, you too can sound like your child taking their first trumpet lesson, you know. But it's amazing, like it doesn't just bend the pitch up in a linear fashion. It mode shifts through the harmonic series. I'm playing the same note, I'm just using the pitch bender to some limited degree of success to change the pitch. But that always amazed me with this instrument. And it was best played using a breath controller where you could really realize that expression. It did some great, just otherworldly synthesizer sounds.
Because people associate early physical modeling with brass, woodwinds, plucked strings, but this could do a lot more than those types of sounds.
Yeah, I mean the sound I was playing earlier, this water phone, like the pressure does. Oh, I don't know, what does it do? Scream. There's a parameter in the VL called scream, for lack of a better term.
That must have blown people's minds.
Yeah.
You played on that.
Right. So, in addition to the CS80, we have his younger brother, the CS60 here, and the recent addition to the synth space, but really nice. Really nice specimen for the CS60. Pretty good shape. Everything works really nicely. And this differed from the CS80 in that it was way lighter. One person can almost lift this up by themselves, so that's good. But it's essentially a single voice from the CS80. Just get it some pretty big sounds using pulse width modulation. So you've got pulse and saw with modulation. You got noise too if you want to add that in for some sound effects. High pass, low pass filter. Again, you have this. You can mix in a sine wave after the filter. So if you are doing some high pass stuff, you can retain some fullness there. You do have aftertouch, but this isn't polyphonic aftertouch. This is regular monophonic aftertouch, but still a big part of the CS sound, I think. You retain the ring modulator, and of course you got your LFO and onboard controls. So you can see the tone selector here a lot different than the CS80. Same sort of sounds, but because you only have one voice, you can do the memory or the panel, and then they added these transposition keys, which are kind of nice to have. You can change the transposition.
Car radio button style.
Yeah, so AM 690 hits of today, KK, whatever it is, whatever you got. You can dial those in there. And then you do have memory, but unlike the CS80, you just have a single memory slot. So you can dial in your sound, and what did you say? This is your save.
Your save button.
Yeah, your save button.
There's 4 of those in the CS80,
yeah.
And the way you save is you set those and leave them alone.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So here it is. There's save button. But yeah, cool instrument. Of course, you've got the ribbon controller, big part of the playing experience, and yeah, it sounds good. I always like the portamento and glissando. So glissando, you can get these sort of real cool chromatic things happening.
Articulated notes.
Right. But portamento, of course, is constant. The effect everyone's familiar with. So another cool thing that I found, in creating the synth space and collecting all of these instruments, is I get to meet a lot of the people behind the instruments, from some of the folks who have great stories, that we purchased some of these old instruments from, to the developers, including our amazing engineers in Japan, and other people we've worked with. And one in particular, I was really fortunate to meet this last NAMM show, the 2019 NAMM show, and that's Dr. John Chowning. And just to catch everyone up, in case you don't know who Dr. John Chowning is, he's one of the people who helped, who brought FM to Yamaha and helped develop the technology that powered, a lot of these instruments we've looked at, the DX, the GS1, and now the Montage and Mo DX. The one thing he said about FM, he goes, it's not you don't have to know math. It's not a math technology. He even said it. He goes, it's an ear technology. Use your ears. Put in what you think sounds good, and don't be afraid to experiment. And I think that's really sound advice. Maybe sometimes just move knobs and close your eyes and don't worry about what that ratio is or what sidebands it will generate. So it's been really great to meet people like that, like Dr. John Chowning, and talk with him, and not just learn about the technology itself, but more the philosophical approach, and get back to making music, taking it up to a higher level. So thank you, Dr. John Chowning, and thank you for signing our instruments. We're glad we're able to share our innovation together with you.